When I was under 5, I had like accident with my skull involving my head and getting stitches on my head. I experienced brain damage. I had to repeat a year and I wasn't allowed to do visual arts. I wasn't allowed to do artistic things, and I already had a inclination to that. I drew, even though I had to do all of the sciences and all of the math. And it's like, I'm playing the fucking drums. It's like, that's the heartbeat of rock and roll, you know? Shit, how do you draw? Fuck, how do you paint? I have to teach these kids. So I was literally just learning how to draw while I taught them how to draw, learning how to paint while I was teaching them how to paint. And so like totally crashed courses I'm teaching. I never did any of that stuff. I did like basically music for my fine arts degree. That was my art project. There are people in the music scene, fine arts scene, educational scene, they don't think anything like people with ADHD at all. They are so incredibly logical. It's like starting too many things, simultaneously wanting to be like a writer, a journalist, photographer, visual artist, a musician, a rock star, a teacher, and really successful in business. And you're starting these projects that can't be finished. It's like having 5 things cooking and you've only got 4 spots. You want us to like write the song that brings peace to the universe. And it's like, we're like, yeah, we can do it. We can write the best song ever.
God gave rock and roll.
Hottest band in the land. It's gotta be Kiss, right? I got into Kiss, part of a midlife crisis. Realized how fucking cool Ace Frehley was. Oh, In Excess.
What's your weirdest moment?
There was a pour flip. And I don't understand that I've sat with the Takiwātanga whenua. So I get up and I pretend that I know this waiata. So I stand up with them and mumble my way and pretend I know, like an All Black, singing the national anthem, terrible sort of like lip syncing. First years, who I'm supposed to be sitting with, come by and hongy every one of us. So I hongy every single first year. The real game changer was finding out my partner also had ADHD. And so like, there's things that we totally respect about one another and the way that we do things. That's a real game changer.
This episode, we have Nick Clark from Electric Tapestry, a musician and an art teacher. He shared how he overcame his challenges in life, including ADHD and his passion for music and art. From struggling in school to playing gigs with his band, Nick's story shows the power of creativity and embracing who you are. Don't miss this inspiring conversation with Nick Clark. Before we begin, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe, follow wherever you're listening or watching. This will help with the algorithm, so those interested in the same kind of stuff can find us. Thanks and enjoy. Welcome, Nick. Okay, go. Welcome and thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to meet you. Good to meet you. Again. Yeah.
Again, part 2. Yeah. Right. I guess we can start it from the beginning of time.
Okay, yeah.
Who is Nick?
Yeah. But in the beginning, I felt like I've experienced brain damage like quite early as a child from an accident I sustained, and I think that coupled with the fact that I went to a Jewish school, which really fucking confused me because the Aleph, which is like the Jewish alphabet we had to learn, like looks like an N. So straight away I was learning how to write my name like an N, but also knowing it's the first letter of the Jewish alphabet really kind of threw me off. And we didn't speak Jewish at home, we didn't speak Hebrew. And when I was under 5, I had like some sort of like accident with my skull involving my head and getting stitches on my head. And then I had to repeat a year when I moved from the Jewish school, which wasn't really working out for me, to a private all boys school in Auckland. But that one, which I can't name, was rife with abuse. Not just sexual, but psychological. They really tortured the boys, almost like a jail. And it was like a little plot of England in the middle of South Auckland. You know, so next to all the palm trees and all the natives and stuff like this, there's this weird winding path, and all of it's this school in South Auckland. And it's pretending to be England. It's like got these flat lawns, it's got these chapels, it's got oak trees, you know what I mean? And birch trees and shit like that, and it's got a fake river going through it. And
Fake river,
yeah. Well, like it's actually part of a fountain whole installation of the school. So like, yeah, but do you know what I mean? It's like trying to be almost like terraformed England. You know, it's like, it's very strange. So after leaving that school again, so I'd already repeated a year because of my learning difficulty. I then went to a very, very liberal school for the last 3 years of my high school, or 2.5 really years of my high school, because I went in the middle of fifth form because things got so bad at the boys' school where there was all this abuse and shit like this. So that's the 3 sort of chapters of my childhood, sort of going up. It's like sort of like sustaining this injury and going to this Hebrew school, like, which was also the only synagogue. So like all the Jewish people in that area all had to walk on Sabbath, which is Saturday. So we were used to that, and we had those were all like my childhood friends, right? And then we, my family decided that I should go to a different school because it wasn't working out learning-wise. But in order to get into the equivalent of this all-boys school, sort of like prep school, they said, like, oh, really, we think he should repeat this year because his grasp on knowledge is so fucked up because, like, he half knows the Jewish Hebrew and he's learning Hebrew, like, and all these glyphs. So that threw me. And just when I finally left this abusive sort of like all-boys army military set-up England terraformed concept, when I finally left that, it was very, very liberal school, and that kind of like got me interested in doing fine arts, which is what I do now, and music and meeting liberal people. It's actually those people I didn't meet in my first part of my childhood. Whereas a lot of people, if you went to a public school, you would just be more in tune with the real populace. You'd be more connected with who the population of that place is. But it was just la la land, because like it was just all the Jewish people of a particular area. You're not getting to know people. Then it was just like all the richest people of a neighborhood. And then it was like this little pocket of liberals. And so like in between these 3 phases, like all Jewish people of the area, all rich people of an area, and then finally like very, very liberal high school, which is where I should have been in the beginning. And I wasn't allowed to do visual arts. I wasn't allowed to do artistic things. And I already had a inclination to that. I drew, even though I had to do all of the sciences and all of the maths, like stats and calc, biophysics, math, physics, chem, and bio, like just for no other reason than to say, oh, but if you want to become a doctor, you can. If you want to do law, you can. You can do engineering if you can, like keeping, you know what I mean? Just do well in these.
Except art.
Except, no, I wasn't allowed to do it. It was outlawed. And so, like, it probably made me more interested in art. And then my parents actually made me play a musical instrument instead of doing a sport. It was seen as a very Jewish thing to do. And most of the kids that my mum wanted me to be friends with were learning already how to play piano or violin. And a couple of the cooler ones were like, because it was the 80s, right? It was like, oh, my son's learning the drums. And then that was like my
starting point
into rock and like, alternative music scenes. Before then, I was such a nerd. I bought like the Jurassic Park soundtrack because I was interested, because I was part of orchestras and stuff like this. But I think that the drums is the instrument that like was the gateway drug to rock for me. Like knowing someone, because like, wait, are you playing the drums for an instrument? Like my mum makes me do piano and violin and cello and shit like this, and just like all the other Jewish guys, right? And it's like, I'm playing the fucking drums. It's like, that's the heartbeat of rock and roll, And realizing that was an instrument, yeah. And then from there, I went to fine art school.
In Auckland as well?
In Auckland as well, at Elam School of Fine Arts. So I was doing visual stuff, but also some of it was performance stuff and sound stuff, because I'd already got jobs in radio. Right. So some of what I got in a visual arts degree was actually a whole lot of like sound stuff and animation stuff and like fucking around with paper and projections and TVs and screens and cameras and shit like this, and performance art and people doing shit. It wasn't really drawing. So only when I became a art teacher, which I am now, did I have to get really good at drawing. Like, oh, shit, how do you draw? Fuck, how do you paint? I have to teach these kids. So I was literally just catching up like one lesson ahead of these guys, learning how to draw while I taught them how to draw, learning how to paint while I was teaching them how to paint. Oil paint, never done that fucking before. And so like totally crash courses I'm teaching. Just like, fucking hell. So my understanding of teaching for arts has always been like, holy shit, I just better check that out. Oh, they're doing origami, like I better try that in the weekend. Or sculpture, like I never did any of that stuff. I did like basically music for my fine arts degree. I'd like recorded my band's like entire double fucking CD opera.
You recorded?
Yeah, that was my art project. My art project at art school was just recording a fucking double concept album. You know what I mean? So I was just doing music when I was supposed to be doing fine arts. So yeah. Anyway, so long story short, obviously it would have been cool if I'd never had that brain damage at all.
How did you handle those situations?
All of them badly, probably. Like probably indulging in recreational drugs as a way to deal with stress and all of those changes of life, you know. And all those stresses, like as well. It's just, yeah. I think that's a part of being ADHD and sort of like borderline autistic is that like I'm able to sort of see that in myself. It's like, oh, that's something that they probably would expect you to do, given that they know you know what I mean? Like anyone that knows that you've got something to explain a slightly different behavior, if they have that, then that's what they'll expect. So it's just like, oh, they just did the research. Like this is what this guy has. This is what you can expect from him as a, I don't know, as a whatever, as a person, as a teacher, as a parent, as a musician. You know, like it really does make some interactions with people quite hard because there are people in the music scene, there's people in the fine arts scene, there's people in the educational scene. They don't think anything like people with ADHD at all. They are so incredibly logical. And the weird thing about ADHD and people that don't is that when they finally find out what the symptoms are and what the, you know, like the so-called kind of terminology for it is, right? Like they start realizing everyone around them is the same. Like all their friends, or their partners, or even their kids and their kids' friends. They're like, oh, we're all either ADHD or non-ADHD. And these are these kind of like, you know, those mycelium sort of like connection points, like mushrooms. Like those, I feel like, are two very different things operating in society, and there's not a lot of interaction between people. There's not a lot of movement. There's not a lot of breeding between them, or seeing between them, or interacting, or even doing business. And they're not even aware of it. Like it's like having a neighbor who's like diagonally across from you. You might never know that fucker ever. You could have a car crash with that guy, and like be dealing with lawyers between each other, and have no idea you like literally share it.
Neighbor, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows who they are? You know.
During the first time that you've heard, how you felt during the time that ADHD is manifesting. I'm just gonna use that term. ADHD is manifesting when you were growing up. How does that look like? Like, did your parents bring you to the doctor, or?
No. They didn't want to deal with the shame of having a son that had some sort of learning difficulty. So their first response was incredibly, almost sarcastic, is that they sent me to a specialist to see if I was deaf. And within a minute of being there, the doctor was like, no, Mrs. Clark, this boy's not deaf at all. Like, I don't know why you're here. He's obviously not. I mean, like within seconds, really, he's aware. And that was her go-to sort of like a specialist. Of course it's not that. Of course it's something else. Like, it was that I didn't see things when she said like, Nikki, look out the door, look at that, with a finger. And I'd be like playing, and I'd be in complete dreamland. I'd be like sort of like in the middle of actually driving through lava.
In the zone?
Yeah, I was totally, imaginary, like dealing with elements and thinking I'm a wizard, like I wasn't gonna answer her. And then she thought that was deafness. That's not deafness, that's a child who has too many things going on. There's too many tabs open. Like it's like you're an internet explorer, you're just like...
Open everything.
Yeah, you got a gazillion tabs, like don't close the tabs. And they're all working in the background, they're all sort of like playing and you're switching between them. And so I say, in terms of manifesting, it's like starting too many things, like simultaneously wanting to be like a writer and a journalist and a photographer and a visual artist and a musician and a rock star and a teacher and really successful in business and like really good and know-how and all this. Like, you can't fucking do that with that shit. And so you're starting these projects that can't be finished. They'll never get finished. They're all like sort of like to-do pile, and you're just like sort of like flipping between them like you're cooking. You're just sort of like this pan. It's like having 5 things cooking and you've only got 4 spots.
Right.
You know what I mean? Okay. That's how it feels. And you like sort of shift them around because you got to give the one that's off the pan some time, you know? And they're interests or passions. And so you might have one that's more important. Like for me, you know, music is quite important, right? I love playing music with my mates and I love writing music and performing it. Fucking great. I love doing it. It gives me purpose and stuff. But it's a very different energy from writing, which is something else I want to do. But those are going on with like family commitments and sort of like relationship commitments and sort of even my friends as well as a 6th sort of thing. So I got to give a bit of, you know, like heat to this. I got to like ask them to go fishing with me every now and again. Like and sometimes like you have got to spend some time with your kids and like that's a big important part as well, which is big family. It's like there's got to be family time as well. So
you have kids, right?
Yeah. I've got 3 kids. I had one kid very young. So like she's like at uni now. But with that same partner, I've had my other 2. But the other 2 we've had at a more sort of sensible average age for a New Zealander. Like most Kiwis have kids, they like sort of in their late 20s to early 30s. You know what I mean? Like nothing past 35. You know what I mean? Like they, you know, good eggs, right? But we had our first like girl when we were like in our early 20s. It was very unusual, and like whenever we met with parents for her or school to pick up and drop off, like we just seemed like teenagers to these people. And it's like, oh, you're a real parent, you've got a fucking car, and she's like, oh, we're still living in a flat, and we're like walking to get the groceries, and we're dealing with a kid. And we were studying, we were doing fine arts at the time. That's when I was doing the double opera of like and like that was Elam School of Fine Arts.
So were you like diagnosed? When was it?
Actually, very recently, but that was through the public sector because we didn't have private insurance, and so I was talking about difficulties I was like encountering in my job, and the principal at the time said that we'll pay for you to have a diagnosis.
Too expensive, right?
Yeah, but they said that they'd do it because I said like I'm on the public sort of health system, you know. That's what I've been on this for my broken leg, right? Like I'm totally on the public.
So when did you start moving here from Auckland?
Over a decade ago, 12 years ago.
Okay. What made you decide to move here from Auckland?
Well, I had like a midlife crisis, complete panic attack.
Sorry to cut you off. How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 42.
Okay, so that's the midlife crisis.
Yeah. Oh, much earlier. Like this is like, so it would have been like, my mid-30s, right? And like women go through that too because like, remember at the same age, that's seen as too old for having kids, you know? And so like for them, their like biological clock is like ringing around the same time. And if you're going out with someone who's going through that at the same time, you know, like that has huge ramifications because like your partner is going through like something like a realization. It's the same sort of thing with going out with women who are going through menopause as well, according to my older friends. Like when they're going through that, like it's a fucking ride. You know what I mean? So if you're staying by her, you probably have like some sort of like realization of your life as well as a man, but it's just not manifested through your body as much. But then there's other things just like breaking your leg or whatever, and just like these complete realization wake-up calls that make you aware of how fragile you are as a human being, and you're just like a culpable and you know, innocent and sort of like able to be, you're very vulnerable. Yeah. As a being.
When did you start picking up an instrument? When you were young?
I started with like more like you know, like piano and recorder, and I played the oboe, and then I did that, and then until I got the braces, and then I couldn't play a double reed instrument, and that's when I started playing guitar. So braces kind of got me interested in guitar, but I was already interested in rock music just because of my friend playing the drums.
What bands are you sort of listening to back then? You still remember?
What, at the very beginning, like I was like buzzing out that there was like things like Jefferson Airplane.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like, and realizing my parents had like a couple of Jefferson Airplane
In vinyl?
records.
Is it?
Yeah, vinyl, yeah. Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, this band's like heavy as shit. They didn't have anything like Black Sabbath or whatever, but like my dad was fully into Electric Light Orchestra, and I feel like the kind of music we're playing now is quite Electric Light Orchestra, sort of like, it's almost like soft rock, A&R, sort of 70s rock. And it's cool, and there's heavy bits and there's groovy bits and stuff like that. Like that's actually like what we're more going for. Like it's almost like my dad's vinyl collection is like what my current band is like just turned into.
Do you still have that?
My dad still has me. He's got heaps of vinyls. But like Jefferson Airplane, Electric Light Orchestra buzzed me out because they were just like really rock and like played with some quite unusual sounds, like overdriving the guitar and also overdriving the vocal cords as well, like sort of overdriving the, like actually screaming.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like actually hearing what the human voice sounded like when it was sort of like to breaking point. And there was a lot of like baby boomer sort of like stuff, because the Beatles do that and the Rolling Stones did it and the Animals and the Who, and there's all these people, but like it's actually like really, it's not always the pioneers that I fully respect. I almost like respect the perfectionists. I think that pioneers of a sound should be given due, and in most cases I actually think they have, like in terms of a scene or a sound. If you're the first to do it, that gives you a lot of cred. That gives you a lot of points.
They're the first to do it.
Yeah,
Somewhat.
Yeah. If you're the first to do it, that counts for a lot. But they're not the best at it. Like there's heavier bands, or like there's a band like, oh, we did speed metal tonight. Well, of course there's a faster band now than the guys that first started it, or there's like some sort of grunge band, like, but there's a perfected version of it, like much later, but it's not from the 90s and they're not from Seattle. But what your concept of grunge, they do the perfect fucking version of it. Check it out. I feel like that's what I'm moving more towards with the things that I'm interested in now. When there's bands that are not the first, they're not the pioneers, but they have honed the craft so well. It's the perfect manifestation of that genre. It's just like, this is the best drum and bass. Where's it from? Brazil. Oh, it's great. Or like the perfect grunge band comes from out of Australia from the 2010s. It's like...
Is this the Silverchair? Oh no, they're kind of like...
No, I was thinking more like...
borderline grunge.
Yeah. But they did exist in the 90s. They're like old school. Like their first album is like 94. But I think more King Gizzard and Electric Wizard, you know, like that kind of stuff, like it's like perfect now, but it's just like it's so out of time. Or Emil and the Sniffers, another Australian band, like perfect fucking punk band out of nowhere, out of the 2020s. You know what I mean? Like if you like punk and if you like sort of Iggy Pop,
Yeah.
you know, or even what else would it be? Blondie. You know, like if you like Blondie, because Blondie's like punk as, man. There's some, I don't give a shit. They just were doing a rap song next, and then they suddenly did kind of like invented heavy rock and then invented rap rock, and Blondie were doing all sorts of crazy shit. It was New York, and it was the fucking 70s and stuff.
What made you decide to start Tapestry, Electric Tapestry? Is that how I...
Electric Tapestry.
Tapestry.
Yeah.
Electric Tapestry.
Basically, I can owe it all to Kiss, the band. Is that basically what happened was this. I fully realized how awesome Kiss were.
I should have worn my Kiss t-shirt.
They have the best merch as well. They have the best merch. A lot of people hate them because of their success and their ability to do, merchandise really well. But at the end of the day, like, they rock anyway. Like they do dual guitar parts. There's like, they were the fucking coolest band in the early 70s, all the way through the early 70s. They like owned it, man. They were like the heaviest, the coolest, the weirdest, the scariest. It's as if Slipknot started going to like Studio 54. Like, I don't know what would be the equivalent of them, because that's what Kiss did. It would be like Slipknot showing up at the Grammys and being like the coolest there by far.
They're the only ones. They're different.
Yeah. But that's what's weird is that Kiss somehow got into the mainstream.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
After they removed their mask.
Yeah. And it was when rock was but like very popular in Japan because a lot of their stuff was based on like Japanese theater, sort of like kabuki, sort of like painting faces stuff. So like, yeah, they were big everywhere, and like they're big in Australia and New Zealand. They're talking about vinyl for a second. Like my partner, when she started living with me, she brought a lot of her mum's vinyl, and she had some really fucking cool shit. Like some of it was like Meatloaf and stuff, but some of it was Kiss. And I was like, this is quite a fucking cool collection. And then we've mushed us together, and like we've got double ups. We've got double ups of like Sgt. Pepper's, double ups of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, double ups of I think Led Zeppelin 2 or 4. I think we've both got one of those. And but yeah, we just mushed our vinyls together, and we've got a vinyl player now in the studio. So that's where my partner is going to use to become an artist. She's becoming a visual artist full time. And I'm just going to support her with that dream while I do music and teach. Yeah.
I remember the first Kiss album that I bought is Revenge, but I know it's too late to learn about Kiss back then. But I heard, I watched this Bill and Ted Bogus Journey, and they have this God Gave Rock and Roll.
Yeah. That's right.
And then I was so fascinated with that song, and then
it's a good song.
Yeah. And then it's
a great rock song, but it's just like
I bought a tape after that.
Remember, like the idea of that song in that movie is the one that like brings peace to the universe. So it's like, because we're like, you want us to like write the song that brings peace to the universe, and it was like, they did that specifically with that in mind, which I kind of find funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we're like, yeah, we can do it. We can write the best song ever. It's like they're the kind of band that you would give that if you were aliens and you were said like, I want to talk to the hottest band in the land. And they'd be like, fuck, it's gotta be Kiss, right?
Yeah.
Hottest band in the land, not the best.
And I love listening to ballad songs that were written by metal hard rock bands because it's like there's soul in it. And then there's this God Gave Rock and Roll too. And then after that, there's Every Time I Look at You from that same album. Like, okay, now I'm gonna buy
there's
the
some
old
great
Kiss
pop songs. John Bovey had some fucking killer songs, man. You know who else was really good at ballads? Is Guns N' Roses. It almost like as their career went through, they almost like went from like straight ahead rock songs, which is their debut, with a couple of good ballads, and then they started realizing everyone fucking loves the ballads. So let's just write more ballads. And as a result of that, I feel like they made hair metal sort of like softer in the 80s, because they like Slash and like Axl Rose, that was a big splash, man. It was a big splash.
You know what? I thought Gen.R. Lies is their first album because it looked classic, older than the Appetite. No, that's the Appetite.
It's like covers and stuff, on that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like,
it is a good one. You know which other one was really cool, which I never had? My brother had the CD of it, was just the Spaghetti Incident. Right. And that's a late Guns N' Roses.
They're like remix, right? Remix of the songs, like from Nazareth. Who's this? Nazareth. Misfits and stuff.
Yeah, and covers and
remake.
Yeah, they do like Stones and what else? They do a Paul McCartney song, "Live and Let Die." The soundtrack their soundtrack is for Terminator 2, Judgment Day. You know, like
that could be mine.
That's the best one. That's the best. But anyway, I feel like Guns N' Roses sort of like softened things by realizing ballads were the best. Ballads were the most.
I think that's
economically.
That's their gateway to popularity. Not that they're not popular with "Sweet Child O' Mine" at that time, but when they started writing like "November Rain" and stuff, obviously many got connected with that song because it's ballad and everyone can just soak into it.
Yeah. That's all their most successful songs. Are exactly that. It's just like, and then you do it's a little bit hard. You bring a little bit of overdrive. It's the only time you can get away with like the man like sneering over the top of a chord change. And then you got Slash. you know, it's just like so over the top. It just like, it was like the Roman Empire. It just got so fucking sick. Everyone's just like, fucking hell, it's so self-indulgent. It's just a big fucking wank. You know, like, balance is like, they got too shitty. And then Nirvana came, which was like basically the punk rock pendulum. It was like, punk had got uncool, and then it just came back and was like really fucking cool, just smash all that other shit. But every iteration is different between like, sort of like hardcore metal enthusiasts and the punk rock ideal. And like punk is almost like hip hop as well, because it's like sort of counterculture. Sort of like there's like, maybe pop is more like the side of this other thing, which like it's pro culture. But it just swings, like if you're like, establishment is cool, or anti-establishmentarianism is the new punk rock, or the new Soviet concept, or the new alternative way of thinking, or the new, fuck, this system doesn't work, let's all go on this, fucking, you know.
What influenced you, you mean Kiss influenced you to start a band? Is it?
Oh yeah. So basically it's Ace Frehley's fault. I got into Kiss, part of a midlife crisis, realized how fucking cool Ace Frehley was, so fucking angry I'd never got into Kiss, suddenly got into them hard. Started downloading their albums and stuff, and like, but their best one is like the very first live album, Alive.
Kiss Alive one.
Yeah. And I don't care if it's fake. I don't care if it's fake, if they did it in the studio and then like, just add some noise of applause for that one. Some of them are alive, some of them aren't. Okay, that's the official thing. But that fucking album rocks. That is like the best sensation of being at a Kiss album, concert, sorry. Kiss concert back in the day would have been such a spectacle, and they were so dangerous. They were seen as quite dangerous people, you know, like very like strange men. Boots. Boots and like and they were like a leather and stuff like that, and like chaps, and it was all kind of sexual and stuff, and like very. The 70s was very conservative, you know, like things got loose in the 80s, like, you know, like ethics and morals were just like, that's old school, let's get rid of that.
That's why you've got those hair bands like Twisted Sisters trying to like annoy the people like wearing.
But it was an indulgent time. The 80s was indulgent, like especially in the USA, it was just like money, and it's just like the peak of the fucking empire. And it was just like, oh, there's so much money, it's just like sick.
So did you meet anyone from the group at first, or you just started playing?
Oh shit! I still haven't explained.
No, that's okay.
No, it was actually like Ace Frehley, like, and I learned what he played, and I was like, fucking hell, I want to get a Les Paul sort of like 59 sort of reissue.
That's so heavy.
Yeah, and so that became my dream of like getting one, but I got like a cheap knockoff, but it was like it was new and it was like still good, and like everyone, it's made by this special guitar maker. What are they called? Taylor's in the UK, and he designs Les Paul copies under the vintage sort of trademark, but they stay more in tune than a Les Paul, you know, and they're about the same as an Epiphone. I fucking loved playing Epiphones when I was a kid, man. So like that guitar shape just really appealed to me. So
it's like playing Gibson but different name on top.
Yeah. And there's some fucking, listen, does it stay in tune? Can I hear every single note all the way up? Does it hurt my hand? Is it thin enough? Does it got a cool tone? A tone that you can manipulate. I feel like tone's almost the least thing you need to worry about the guitar. As long as the guitar's comfortable and you can play every note and like every note can ring out. Fuck tone, like from guitars. It's just, you just want a playability fucking thing that like you can actually like play as well as you can on.
Right.
You can manipulate the sound so much on the amp and the effects, but like the guitar doesn't fucking do anything in terms of how it sounds. You can change that tone and be like, okay, well like that sounds honky as, I'm gonna get rid of the mids. Or like, oh god, that's screechy, just like get rid of it.
Do you down tune? Like
no, our band? Nope, we don't. Well like yeah, I've been in metal bands, I've been in bands that we played everything in C# and like, yeah. No, lower than that, like C.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like we've done the low thing, I've done the metal thing, and I'm really enjoying playing in a band where we're playing standard. Right. You know, like, and trying to make that sound heavy. But it's like, I feel like also it's easier with piano as well. Like, if we're all G tuning, like they think they're playing an E, it's like, no, you're playing a D. So like, no, I have to change everything in semitone. Right. Like on the piano, so.
Are you the songwriter?
Me and the other guitar star.
Okay.
Yeah. So he writes songs, I write songs. He sings some of my songs, I sing some of his songs.
And you record from here around Wellington?
Yep, we have recorded here. We're recording today at the end of practice, just some vocals or guitar, I forget. Jeff's going to bring in his laptop. And there's not much piano on the two we are releasing. Oh, maybe we could do some piano today, actually.
How do you handle those, like, recording, band practice with your ADHD? Like, how do you stay focused on what you're doing?
Well, because I did everything through the public sector, I got like diagnosed by a psychiatrist from that free thing that my place of work offered. So I do actually have Ritalin, and I do have like medications that I can use, and I have actually found Ritalin really useful when I've got like, not every day, because then it sort of like loses its purpose and it's not a good thing to have every day. So if you cannot have it every day, then that's better to not do that. So I actually choose the times when I'm doing like a really, really boring task that ADHD would not allow me to finish because it's not interesting enough. And it's like, is this interesting? It's like, is this engaging? Are you passionate about this? I have to ask that myself with everything. And if the answer is no, I find it way harder to do it because like there's no heart in it, there's no passion in it, there's no, I'm not doing it. So that's when I need the Ritalin. And when I do the Ritalin, it's like, oh yeah, and I don't get bored. I find it interesting, the ticking. I find it interesting, the checking. I find it interesting, the most boring of tasks. I have to do this and do this. And if it's just moving around doing different things, like photocopying this and then putting a thing up and then clearing a board and then moving some furniture and then moving out and then doing your own work, I could do that all day because that's just like, blah, 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 yeah, like bouncing around. But if there's a time when I have to do one task for an entire day, I need Ritalin. Definitely, if it was that extreme, doing one thing for a whole day.
Have you played across Wellington alone, or you also?
We've played outside of Wellington, but we mainly play Wellington Central shows.
I saw you have an upcoming show.
We've got 3 upcoming shows. Yeah, like, but one of them's outside of Wellington. That's going to be at Napier. And most of them are supporting this band called Death Chemist, who are going on a tour, who we're mates with. And the 2 Wellington shows, at least, are like Moon and Underworld. Yeah, and like now that there's more people coming to our gigs, we're not playing like 4-band gigs anymore. We're just doing 3-band gigs because we've got enough music out as well, and we've got enough people that are just curious of what we're doing and stuff, like knowing what we're doing. Like I think we played with a lot of bands that were like very much heavier than us to begin with, and we kind of got thought of as a lighter band, which we are, but that's only when you're measuring on heaviness. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's dependent on the heavy on the person listening to it. Like,
oh yeah, and also the other bands playing before and after that's sandwiching you. Like, if the band next comes on, they're like, prepare for resistance, and it's all like fucking throwdowns and lockdowns and sort of grindcore shit. And the band before you was a punk band, but if you compared us with like a pub band, right? There'd be moments in Electric Tapestry to be like sound like heavy metal. They'd be way too heavy for the gig. It's like, oh fucking hell, get the band off, We didn't ask for this, the wedding, you know what I mean, or the bar mitzvah or whatever. So there's definitely parts of it that are kind of noisy and weird, but for the most part, it sounds more soft rock. It's soft rock experimental, really. But yeah, we've had. This is our 3rd gig out of Wellington. Our 4th gig out of Wellington. When we're playing the Napier Cabana for opening for Death Chemist. And we're playing with some emo bands, we're playing with some punk bands, we're playing some bands that are fast rock, punk rock, we're not playing with any metal bands. We're playing with like kind of a grunge pop band. They're really cool. They're quite poppy, but also kind of play with heaps of fuzz and stuff like that. So, but for the most part, we're not playing with metal bands because I've done that, and that's that kind of scene, and it's cool. But like everyone's expected to do all the fucking same shit, and it gets really fucking boring, and it's a big sausage fest. There's like no girls that go to metal shows, really, unless there's a couple, and they're just like the kind of girls that you don't even want to meet. They're just like so weird and dangerous, you know what I mean? So like, you want to go to a scene where there's like almost about 50-50, like it's good to have girls in bands, girls represented in bands, because like they bring friends and they bring mates, and it's way more interesting. It's more like a village sort of meeting in a square, you know what I mean? So like a, one of those things people used to have, like just like a barn dance almost. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of atmosphere you wanted a gig. It's sort of like almost like young people come gather around, you know, like on the side of the barn, you know, like just young lovers come, you know, like here's some music to be joyful to. You know, if you can't be joyful, don't come. If you don't want to be part of a celebration of life and like dance around a fucking fire naked and sort of be jovial and drink of the grape, and you know what I mean, you're asking people to celebrate and like have a beer at the venue, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of vibe, that's the kind of spirit that you need to imbue. You need to, and we've just found it way easier just to being an alternative sounding band. Playing in standard, a lot of time playing with piano. And yeah, there's some pop elements, but there's also some pop elements that are quite heavy and weird, but for the most part it's kind of soft rock. And I'm way better. I've just fully accepted it now. That's exactly what it is. I've started listening to Tears for Fears, for example. Like,
New wave. Ooh.
Yeah, and realizing how fucking clever the music is. You know, it's like those piano bits and those bits that are sampled and stuff are really cool. The drums sound sucky because like it's at the 80s and like they, for some reason, they got into the perfection of programmed drums.
Right.
It sounds fake as hell now. You know, it sounds so dated, and it still doesn't sound cool. Still doesn't sound cool. It's just like, oh yeah, it's supposed to sound shitty, and it's like the only band I think that could have pulled it off is probably Joy Division. They're the only band to have made totally fake sounding drums sound cool, and to actually pull it off. Everyone else, sorry, maybe Blondie a couple of songs, maybe they got away with it. Everyone else, fail. You know, it sounds terrible, 80s drums. It's like that in the gated reverb that Phil Collins invented. So it's just basically lots of reverb, nothing. It's lots of reverb, and then just like a gate like shuts it off, so it's like to silence.
So what's the vibe in terms of the gigs that you're going to? Like, do they have like similarities? Like if you go to the
oh well, there's always slightly different vibes. We play different sound.
Every location, different sound.
We have a different set list. Oh, do you mean the sound of the venue?
No, the vibe in terms of the crowd.
Oh yeah, which is quite different because like the first show we're doing at Underworld is with Seismic State and Paper. Like they're like quite light bands, right? And then when we're playing with Death Chemist and Cherry Punch, we're probably going to make the set list way heavier for that. And again, when we're playing in Napier, we're going to be as experimental as we can. So there's one set list we're going to be quite heavy, because it's going to be at Moon, it's going to be quite a punky bar. Another one which is going to be like quite soft rock and noisy, we'll kind of get into some My Bloody Valentine moments, and we'll play more with those songs that are quite weird and long.
Everything is your song. You wrote.
Yeah. We've got heaps of songs.
Do you play cover songs?
We do. We used to do the Pink Frost's, Pink Frost by The Chills. Yeah, and we like playing New Zealand song. Another song I want us to do is She Speeds by Straight Jacket Fits. But we've done this U2 B-side that was used for the Batman 3 soundtrack. Like Love Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, Thrill Me. No, Love Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. Yeah, by U2. When that was used for a soundtrack for a Batman movie. What else have we done? We've done Green Day, we've done Weezer, we've done Pumpkins, we've done Muse, we've done Beatles, Stones, the Ramones, Pet Sematary, because we did a Halloween gig, so we did like these spooky songs. Fuck, we've done heaps of guys. Oh, we did a really weird one, which was Fine Young Cannibals.
Oh, yeah. I think
Drives You Crazy? Yeah. Drives Me Crazy. Wow, what a great song. And like we totally fucking pulled that off. And I had people dancing in the club to that. And another weird kind of pop song we did was In Excess.
Australian, that's Australian, right?
Australian band, yeah. Yeah. That was so fun to
yeah.
do. Yeah. So we've done loads of covers. Yeah, we played at a couple of clubs where we just did nothing but covers all night. But now we're really starting to enjoy playing our originals because like we've got 3 EPs out and we've got another 2 coming this year of more music, and we're just going to record an entire album when we have a break. So like we'll have an album, totally new music, and we're going to have all these EPs now. And we've released stuff that we've done live because some of our live performances are better than the
recording.
Yeah, just because like the energy and the spirit's there.
Right.
As long as everything sounds balanced, you get someone else to remix it and stuff. But like the performance of a band, how well they played together in that moment, in that time. Sometimes they were like, just like, we were fucking totally bonded. Like at that moment, we're like totally in time. Just like even for those micro movements, you look at the drum and you're like, they stop for a second, you stop for a second as well. It sounds so much heavier, and then bam, and then the bassist might pick it up and go, bam. You know what I mean? Like, and that's harder to do recorded.
Did you learn those instruments at school or self?
I did have guitar lessons. Actually, the very first guitar lesson I got was quite sad because I saw Nirvana Unplugged. And I saw the guitar that Kurt was playing, and I was like, fuck, that's the acoustic that I want. I went and basically bought a steel string acoustic, beautiful guitar, like not like a Martin or whatever, but like, you know, it was decent, right? Bronze strings though, big sound, and quite a big action as well. But like it was okay for kind of cowboy chords. It sounded great for like cowboy chords all in the first 3 frets. When you started playing up here, it started sounding shitty and you couldn't get the intonations shit. But it sounded beautiful just for cowboy chords down here. It's just like kind of a cowboy guitar, right? And I went into my very first guitar lessons, and it was classical guitar. And he looks at my guitar and he just says, I'm not teaching them it. You have to get another one. By the way, I've got an extra nylon. And he's got this nylon. And I was like, that's the ugliest looking guitar ever. It's like so cheap. It's just like flat and shit. And it's all like, the strings are all plastic because they don't make them out of cat's guts anymore. So like the strings look sort of lame compared to mine. I'm like, oh fuck, I had this beautiful guitar. I had to trade it in. Did get a nylon guitar and had the best time of my life, sort of like understanding an instrument super well with this classical master. And he fucking taught me the foundations of playing guitar. And we're like, we got to strip it way back, okay? Like no electric, no amp, just the guitar. Okay, what guitar are we gonna get? We're gonna get classical guitar. Because like you can actually like play all the frets and you can do like whole finger bar down, you know, you can make it sound sweet. We're gonna do hyper technical shit and like learn about like intonation and harmony and melody and like playing with yourself and against yourself, because you can basically play a choir when you've got a guitar, you know, like 6 individual bits, and you can be moving through octaves way harder than it is to you move through a piano. Like you can have one hand here and one hand here, but for guitar it'd be like it's so hard on a piano, but it's very easy on a guitar because it's got a massive range. It's got a huge range. Yeah, and the ease of those to go from a low note to a high note is like super fast on a guitar. It's not the same on every instrument, you know. So he showed me like how to really play the guitar. This like awesome classical guitarist who did make me get rid of my like kind of Kurt Cobain sort of like steel string, which was really fucking cool to have over summer, but then traded it in for a nylon, which I thought was fucking lame. But I was wrong, because like learning classical guitar was a total revelation, and I got totally obsessed about that for a year when I didn't have a girlfriend. I just like fell hardcore into like learning classical guitar. And for 1 year I didn't have a girlfriend. The year before I did, the year after I did it. But like, man, I got super nerdy on classical nylon string. I still had an electric. I had an electric beforehand, right? But like, it was so useful for me as a songwriter to bring things back to a very classical understanding with guitar. And I feel I bring that into my guitar playing, like my interest in interesting voicings and quite old school sort of ways of playing the guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
You play guitar in your band, but you play piano as well.
Yeah.
You play drums.
No. But maybe in the future, maybe we might switch around. I think, because I can play drums. So
You can, okay.
Yeah. But I think in the future of Electric Tapestry, there might be some songs I'm playing on drums. Because that's my first rock and roll instrument is drums. And
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
yeah, the first band I was in is actually the drummer, singer, you know, and someone else was a guitarist, someone else was a bassist. So yeah, I think there'll be some times when I'm playing drums.
Did you find your ADHD a blocker? I'll use the word blocker to your artistry.
Did it make things hard for my artistry?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, in a way. I found a rhythm. I found a rhythm that's useful for my ADHD, especially when I'm like in my art studio at night. My kids have gone to bed, I'm still up. Maybe I'm having a couple of beers late into the night, right? And I'm in the garage, and I know I'm going to be very flighty between things, right? But there's ways you can capture that rhythm, that flightiness of ADHD. And my way was saying, there's the sink, there's this painting, and there's this painting, and there's this painting. And you've written a to-do list on each one. And you can't really paint wet into wet on all the paintings. So you're going to have all the paintings out, all the palettes out. The sink's right there. Throwing the paint outs here. Here's a rubbish bin. Radio, which is just like playing radio, so I don't even have to like choose the songs on. So I leave it to fate, because if I'm choosing a playlist and get obsessive about that, it's like, that's what's cool about radio. It's all decided for you. It's like, oh, this sucks. Oh, can I be bothered changing a station? And you just like go with it. And like someone else is making the decisions for you. That's why radio is fucking cool and so useful to paint to. So I can't recommend, if you've got intense ADHD, to like trust the radio sometimes, or to trust somebody's playlist. Like if somebody's like sent you a playlist on Spotify and just like, I'm gonna play the whole thing, or I'm gonna play this whole album through. You know, I'm just like, you put it on and you forget about it. That's the idea of music, and an hour is a fucking good time. We got rid of that. Now it's like, oh, which song next? Oh, this song next. And everyone's like obsessive about their device, like, which song is next? Which song is next? In the old days, how music is supposed to be perceived is you put that fucking CD on and you like play it and it's like, let's see what this album is like. It might change my life in 55 to 65 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Or sometimes side A, side B of cassette.
Even that's cool, because that's a good 15 minutes. You know, good 15 minutes. Like, do something for 15 minutes, and then it's way less effort to just like flip it around, put the needle to the back. You know, like, let's keep the same vinyl out. Let's see what's on the other side. Did we play both? And sometimes the cool thing about vinyl is like, if the A side was so good, you're like a Beach Boys A side, you're like, holy fuck, we're just gonna listen to that whole side of that record again.
And then
it was so
rewind.
good. Yeah, just again and again. We're just gonna run out the grooves on the A side of all these Beach Boys ones. Because, oh man, but yeah, like I was saying, like Tears for Fears, Beach Boys, some 80s sort of like composers, like even some Phil fucking Collins songs. Like you start to realize how clever they are as a pop song, and you're like, fucking hell, you cannot improve on it. Oh wait, you can, because the drums sound shit. So you just sort of like rough it up a bit, and you do a kind of like a 2020 sort of like slightly weird, almost Radiohead-esque sort of like interpretation. Get some electronics on there, get some keys on there, punk rock guitarist. Maybe like we sing it unusually, or we put some weird effects on our voices or on our guitars or whatever.
And the storytelling too, like.
Yeah, it's a different voice, it's a different generation. And
what else should I ask you? I'm just conscious that your band might.
Oh, so we can just keep going until
they appear. Yeah. So do you teach music?
I have taught music. I've taught guitar, but I currently don't. I just do visual arts.
Visual arts. Do you have like anyone from your class with ADHD?
Most of my classes, especially my seniors.
Okay.
Now that I recognize ADHD, I notice that most of my best students and most of my senior classes, when they've chosen to do painting or they've chosen to do art or design or photography, they're all the ADHD kids. They have the same behaviors as me.
Diagnosis aside, right?
Yep. Oh, I'm not going to diagnose them, but it's just like they're showing all the signs. And whether because I had parents that weren't able to admit that there was anything wrong with me. I had parents that like refused to diagnose it. And it's a proudness thing. And like at a school which is like it's a private school, right? Everyone's rich. Or everyone's like putting that money aside for that education of their daughter. It just means you've got a commitment to it, you know. And some of them are too proud to diagnose, but I can see it now. And in my classes, when they're not choosing visual art, or they're not music kids, or they're not, you know.
I have my youngest is autistic. We have a group like all dads group of autistic kids, and then someone made a comment like, if you want to have your child diagnosed with autism, bring that child to a group of parents, and they will tell you if that child is autistic. It's not like a formal diagnosis, obviously, but based on experience.
I trust that more. I would trust that more.
I was laughing, like I thought they were just joking, like, and suddenly because you're aware, now you can like not diagnose. You can say that, oh, that's an autistic behavior.
Yeah. But I would trust that way more than doctors now. Like, I don't feel like the public New Zealand health sector is like really prepared and like, you know.
And that diagnosis is just good.
They're not interested.
Yeah, and it's just good as its purpose. Like, if you need, like for ADHD, for example, you need medications because you are on the extreme ADHD. Obviously, that's a good point. But I don't know. This is just my opinion. Like my son, my eldest son, we kind of know that he is autistic as well, but we didn't bring him to a diagnosis because he can survive and he knows the kind of like how to navigate the system.
Right.
So just the youngest, which is kind of, he's in the extreme.
But that's the thing, is that it's a spectrum, and then on top of that spectrum is people that have coping mechanisms for it. Because like you can be, it's like someone described it kind of like the weather pattern sometimes. So they'll say like, it is this amount, it's 20 degrees, but because of the wind it's going to feel like 18. You know what I mean? So there's people that are actually like really not coping, but on the verge of sort of holding it together, and they've got coping mechanisms and stuff like that, but they're not really showing that stress because it's unprofessional to show that stress. So they are just fucking coping with their wacky thing. As long as these criteria fit, they'll do their job, they're fine. Two of them go. It's like being on a 3-footed chair. You know, like smash one of those legs and it's just like someone's going down. You know, but people might not even be aware what those trigger things are. It's like they need to be complimented at least once a month for doing what they do for the company because they feel as if they're being underappreciated. Which basically comes to with respect and admiration and acknowledgement and all these other kinds of things. But some people really need them.
Yeah.
And you might not even be aware, even if you were employing this person, that like every month they need to hear that they're doing a good job. Otherwise, they need to hear good boy, good job, good dog. You know what I mean?
Like a baby, like
good job. Yeah, they need to, and some people like really need fucking Friday drinks. It's like, if I'm not going to be social with these fucking cunts that I have to work with, at least once a fortnight we can get together and have one beer together. No, maybe two. You know, like for them, that's a sort of like an absolute, it's part of the contract, right? And they have to get along with people. They have to be able to have joy. Other people are like the absolute opposite. It's like, if I can get by and not talk to anyone I don't need to, because I just like want to go in, do my job, I'll do it well, I'll look after the kids, but I don't want to fucking talk to you people unless I absolutely need to. You need me to do a class? Send me an email. I will do that. I will be there. But don't fucking talk to me. Don't approach me. Don't bring me into the socials. I don't want to do a potluck dinner. I don't want to go to the staff fucking dinner at the end of the year. We don't want to go to the staff drinks. No. I don't even like the staff room. You know, so you don't know what triggers they're going to be. And like, I know ADHD people, and like, it could be like one of those three, totally different ones, or even two, you know, of these weird things. And that's what's holding them together. They're just like, just coping there. Yeah.
Do you have that moment sometime where you just want to be left alone?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like during my accident, there were some times I just wanted to be in isolation. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really have that isolation in hospital. And then I got home and everyone was like hyper concerned. People were showing up all the time. And I knew it was a lot of effort to like sort of like grow new bone, you know? And it's like, it literally makes you tired. And there's a fucking titanium rod down my tibia. So like, tibia, sorry. So like, I've got it growing and I'm supplying my weight on a piece of vinyl.
Right. So when you were operated, you have medications on that. Do you take Ritalin as well? Like, what's the effect?
No, because I wasn't doing, because that was quite stimulating being in hospital and being told what to do and like writing down things and then doing this and then doing exercise and then going to the physio and learning how to use the crutches again. Not that was new because I'd broken my foot a couple of times as a kid, but like, you know, I found that fine. It wasn't a Ritalin required task. It was actually quite stimulating. I was finding people and people were coming in and I was doing that. I was dealing with shit. I was like paying bills even while I was in hospital and like sorting shit out for school. So like, as long as I could go bounce around ideas and tasks, I don't get bored. I can do it without Ritalin. As soon as you ask me to do one thing for the majority of the time or to concentrate for an extended period of time on one particular thing, the only way I can do it is with Ritalin because like I cannot deal with such a long time of sustained focus on one thing. I could bounce all day. I'll get shit done. The place will look kind of half clean and sort of kind of class messy, but like some parts will be cleaner than when you left them. Some parts will be messier. There's not going to be an overall sort of like clean, but some parts will be better. You know what I mean? I don't know what. Could be the bathroom, could be the kitchen, could be the outside deck. There'll be something will be worked on. Plus, I probably would have written something and wrote in something and like practiced my music and contacted people and done correspondence. I can bounce fucking all day. But, and a lot of jobs are bouncing around all day. Like if you think about like how many fucking interactions you have in a busy workplace, like showing up to work and like basically taking caffeine like a drug and going bounce, with other people that normally don't bounce, but because they've had heaps of caffeine and sugar, everyone's just like, you know, like teachers are given like cakes and muffins and oh, we've got this special coming in. It's like, oh, we got cupcakes, everybody. And like, plus everyone's like fucking downing themselves in coffee. You know what I mean? And caffeine is a drug. So it makes ADHD is maybe a little bit more hectic and it makes normal people kind of like that kind of like energy of bounce or that kind of spirit. It's probably different because they're not ADHD themselves. But what I mean is that they'll just get into that same sort of like speed and not sustained focus on a particular task sort of thing, just everyone doing everything. But for one boring task, I would absolutely require medication.
So what's the most boring moments in your life? In
Data entry.
Admin stuff, right?
Yeah. And another one is like doing animations for kids. So if they send me a whole lot of files and then I have to like render each one. And so it's like putting on their pattern that they've had. So like it's a skin wrap around an object or face or something like that. So I have to like load all their skins because they don't come with their file. And then I load them into the file, and then I go render. I'll just check at the lighting. It's like, just make sure that they fucking put lighting on because some of them don't do lighting. So like I render it and it's just like black. It's like, did you put a light in the thing? I should have checked, but did you not think? So some of them don't even put lights in. So you check that as well. And then rendering them. Ooh, that's the most boring thing. And like doing that for a whole 2 classes. Like load, render. And then like just waiting for your laptop to do it and then coming back and it's like 2 hours later. Okay, good. Student 1, right. Load, append it, right, all the things. And then keeping a note of like the students have done, like ticking them off, crossing them off. Like what was they doing? Was they ticking or crossing? Fuck it. I don't remember what I did. Was it circling? Shit, what does the circle mean? That is the worst.
Okay.
That is the worst for me, yeah. Because that's not bounce energy. That's not like feeling like a pinball.
How did you deal with it? If you're kind of like...
If I have to do that boring stuff, that data entry, that sort of like that's when I need medication.
Right.
But I try not to do those tasks. And I don't think I'm in a, like, to be honest, I'm not in a job market where I'm doing a lot of data entry. There's people that have got way more data entry, way more boring day-to-day tasks than I have. But some of my tasks are sort of like boring and I've got access to it but I understand like some people's jobs are like, which are very well paid and like I totally respect them, but they're way more data entry than me. I should count myself lucky because I don't really have that much. Yeah, considering. So, yeah, so that's my coping mechanism. I don't have to do it very often.
Okay. Lucky you.
Yeah, I know. There's some people that really have to, and I really feel for those people because like doing boring tasks when you don't want to do it, and it being part of your job description it's very hard. My heart goes out to them. Like fucking hell, that is one hard slog. But I feel like an art teacher, I can get away with a lot of bounce and movement between tasks. But
you can't do painting while you're waiting for that render, right? I'm assuming you need to.
Oh, I could. Yeah, I could. But yeah, I could paint at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's not like you need to check every instance of that rendering.
Oh, no, you don't. Sometimes it crashes in the middle. Sometimes it'll just run out of memory and it'll be like, what time did it happen? Because like you can't just leave it for 12 hours. You can come back and be like, oh, I had a problem. It's like, fuck, when did the problem have? If you had like a camera of like of what was happening on the computer at that time, it might have like run into an error like within 60 seconds of you pressing play, and now you've just wasted all that time thinking it was rendering.
Right. And your kids, in terms of your ADHD, are they aware about it, or your wife is?
Are they aware of me? No, I don't think any of them, and I don't think most people at my workplace, except for the principal who's now left, knew that I was either. I think some people might suspect, but on the most part, most teachers who teach things like maths and physics and biology and, even the PE teachers, they're not ADHD thinkers. Like, most art teachers I interact with, I found out are. Most art students are. You know what I mean? And same with photography students, painting students. The seniors that choose it are have the same way of thinking as me, majority. But they're the majority, is what I'm saying. There'll be some people that will go do it and be like, oh, okay, you were okay. Yeah, you think that way.
Borderline.
Yeah. But it has made teaching easier.
Right.
But it's not all teachers have it. I think that mainly it's art teachers, and I think it's mainly art students. And then what's weird is that when you think you kind of know the symptoms, you realize that like most of your friends are. Most of your bandmates are, you know what I mean? And it goes both ways. There's people I've talked to who don't have ADHD, and they end up being in bands and have friends and relationships and like girlfriends and boyfriends with people that don't and aren't. And so it's a big sort of like fracture through society, of these people that don't really interact with each other because they think quite differently. Right. And it's, as far as I know, it's like split quite evenly in terms of like people's genetic makeup and where they're from and like sexuality and stuff like that. It seems like very evenly Steven, sort of like
spread out.
Yeah.
What's your weirdest moment where people find you weird?
My first day of art school, I came really late to, and there was a porphyry, but it was on the roof of a old school. No, but in Auckland when I was at university, very first day of university at art school, and it's on the roof of an old children's hospital that's been converted to an art studio for the first years. But they have a porphyry in the front, and I get in with some kids that are going up, and I was like, oh, you're going to the porphyry? And they're like, yeah, quick, jump in. So I go to the top in the lift with them, and I totally not aware, totally colorblind to the fact that all of the people that I caught the lift with are Māori, right? And we get off on the top floor, and they sit quite close to where they got off the lift, and I just sit in the middle of them, like almost smack bang. It's four on this side, I'm just like bang in the middle, just like, oh wow, here I am at the porphyry. I'm like symmetrical. Like I'm just like seeing the entire sort of like roof. And they start the ceremony, and I don't understand that I've sat with the tangata whenua. And like the manahuru is who I should be sitting with. They all came in ages before, but because I was late, I just went with the ones that like are the acting sovereign sort of like home native people, right? And I'm just in the middle, and they're just accepting me as well. I was like, I don't know this fucking cunt or whoever. We're all just here, we're all just representing. And they get up and they do a waiata. So I get up and I pretend that I know this waiata, which I don't. I've never heard it before. But because I'm in the middle, I can't sit down because these people have stood up suddenly. These people have stood up suddenly. Everyone's faces are turned to us. So I stand up with them and mumble my way and pretend I know, like an All Black singing the national anthem. That level of terrible sort of like lip syncing. With a waiata I've never heard before. There's no guitar, by the way. It's just them singing. So I'm just like, kind of get through it. And then there's two that we do, kind of get through the other one. And then the whole goddamn first years, who I'm supposed to be sitting with, come by and hongi every one of us, including me. So I hongi every single first year as I go past, meeting them, just like, hey. And I recognize some of them because some of them are been there for orientation week and like met me before and was like, what the fuck are you doing here?
While you're doing the hongi.
Yeah, while I'm doing a hongi. But like it's supposed to be a ceremony, so they're not supposed to be saying anything. So they're just like watching and going, fucking Nick, what the fuck, dude? Like,
So how does that feel afterwards? Like awkward feeling because like
I just found it funny. Like it's just like, yeah. I mean, there's been other extremes where like I think like more recently, right? When I was a teacher, they had this thing for gifted and talented students, right? And I was supposed to lead it. So like it was this little kind of funny game, and it was sort of like looking at an image and looking at a list of words. And everyone was given the thing, and like it was, and I went through with different groups. I was the teacher there, and like there was all these other kids doing it, right? We were just helping them. And we went from group to group trying to help them with this image and this keywords. And I completely misunderstood the point of the exercise, completely misinterpreted the meaning of the game. Absolutely. Put all these girls wrong, put all these students wrong, just coming in and saying, oh, no, what you're supposed to do with that is supposed to be this. Totally got them on the wrong foot. They all lost all their points because I was like, holy shit, so I just reinterpret it wrong just as a teacher. And they explained it again at the end when they like compared points and who had actually won. None of the girls I'd helped. Of course, because they'd totally gotten the wrong end of the stick, and that was the whole problem. And I could not understand what they were doing. It's like, what? This is such an illogical fucking roundabout way. Like, you should have just made it this. And in my fucking stupid mind, without talking to someone, what they should do is this. I just concocted in my mind that was the way they were doing it suddenly now. And so when I was going around and thanking people, I was just thinking of it at the more logical way that the game should have been played. Not the way the game is played, but the way the game should be played, according to me.
According to their rules.
Yeah. I'll just make up my own rules and be like, you know what the rules should have been, and then just invent them. But yeah, there's been lots of instances like that when have got the wrong end of the stick completely, or it was hard to get my driver's license for a while, like in understanding
how challenging is that? Like, if you have ADHD, are they gonna look for some evidence or some?
Well, it's not on your license or anything like that. It's not really.
Like you pass or fail?
It's only in schools. It only exists in schools. When you're an adult, it doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. There's no records in it anywhere. No employer says, no one puts it on their CV. No employer is aware of or should be aware of. And it's very weird for adults to go up to tell their boss and say, by the way, I just want you to know that like... But when you're a kid, holy shit, all your exams are way easier. Let this way, we're going to photocopy all notes for the students. So students are very well assisted, right, when they're in schools. I was more assisted when I was in schools. People were aware that I had ADHD or some sort of learning difficulty, but the most obvious one was just repeating a year, which wasn't the best way to do it, and my parents completely misinterpreting, thinking I was deaf. But when you're in school, you are very well supported if you have ADHD. Right. And then as soon as you enter university, or as soon as you enter the workplace, like ADHD is not mentioned at all, totally blind, totally invisible.
Like, I have ADHD. Oh, cool. Okay, let's get back to work.
Well, anyway, I'm going to send you 2 email reminders for this. It's like, that doesn't help me at all. That just makes me feel fucking paranoid now. As per my last email that you didn't respond to, which was just a reminder, and I said don't have to respond to, I'm just going to send this one just as per my last, fuck off. Like, you don't need that support. But it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. When you're a teacher, you're expected to basically like, oh yeah, all of these reports done within 3 days, responding to the exam. Fucking hell, that's data entry. Writing reports is hellish for ADHD. Very boring. That's data entry. Very boring. Because you're trying to make them all different, and then some of the kids are just like, listen, you just deserve the same report. Like, what I want to say to you, I also want to say to you for. You know what I mean? It's almost like when you write reports, it's like, I can think there's 5 different messages you want to give. 5. Not as many as fucking 25. They don't have to be different. You just make like, I'm disappointed in you. I'm glad with what you're doing. I know what you're doing, but you could reach your potential. You're far, far below your potential. We need to talk. Fucking phone me, right? Those are the only 5 fucking things I need to tell any student. It's either thumbs fucking up, thumbs fucking down, and in between. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I could give them a score. You've got 5 stars, 4 stars, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. but making each goddamn one individual is hell. It's terrible. It's punishment.
So with your band, do you do like a DIY-ish kind of thing? Like you do everything, including design, recording, and marketing?
Yeah. It's all us, just social media and us putting a little bit of cash into the band to record and do studios. And
are you aiming for like doing like, I don't know, a tour sometime? Like not just
yeah. We're just testing the waters. That's why we're just doing like occasional out of Wellington.
Occasional,
gigs. Yeah. But for the most part, until we get all our music out, like we're just gonna like kind of bubble away, just making sure we're doing, gigs every now and again. You can overplay a scene. There's one band in particular. I won't mention by name, but god damn, they saturate themselves so much through overexposure. They dilute themselves. Because they're playing like a Friday and a Saturday. It's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Do you think you can grab people that much? That's why no one comes to your gigs. Like, yeah, we're playing there the Friday, then we're there, and then we're going to do another one the next weekend. It's like, are people coming to these shows? And then you go to one and you're like, no one comes to see these guys because they've played too much. Like, we're playing tomorrow night, by the way, if you guys want to come down. It's like, you're not that fucking great. You're not that goddamn great that someone's going to see you on a Friday night and then their Saturday evening as well. What did you do on the weekend? I saw this terrible punk band twice. Oh, were they good? It's like, what are you doing with your time, And if you play once, I think once every 2 months.
That's ideal.
6 gigs a year. Just keep it boiling over. Maybe 7.
Within Wellington, 6 gigs, ideal.
Yeah, 6 gigs. Yes, because 6 gigs just Wellington. If you want to do an outside, don't count those 6. But I think that's a good amount for a band. I think any less than that, it's just like you're barely retiring. Like 3 a year seems really lazy. Well, maybe I could get used to 3 a year when we're older. Maybe 3 a year. Fuck, I don't know. But the next part of Electric Tapestry is recording an album because we've got way more ideas for songs, and we're gonna experiment a lot more with like our drummer doing bass parts and occasionally doing electronic drums, and also our other guitarist, he's going to do bass. I'm occasionally going to do drums, occasionally going to do electronic drums, samples and stuff. But it's probably just with us 4.
Right. And are you going to like, how do you contact those venues? Like, do you contact, hey, can we play in your...
Some of them, yeah. Okay. Or email or just like social media. And you say, is this date free? I can get some people here. And they'll say, oh, how many people can you bring? You're like, oh, well, it's getting a venue there. So probably
how does that work? Like, do you pay them or do they pay you?
Well, you have to pay them to a certain amount. And then once you've paid that amount, then it's all profit for you. So most of the time you make a little money. Is it enough money for how much effort and time and petrol and new strings and new drum heads? No, it's not.
But it's the experience, right?
Yeah, it's the experience, yeah. But you're not. It's not costing you money in terms of the venue. You almost get paid just enough that like you could pay the venue off and you could pay a little bit of extra. And here's a bit for you. Here's a bit for you. Here's a bit for you. It's less than busking. If you got out your acoustic guitar and you played for that amount of time that it took you to get ready for that gig, if you were just on the street non-stop, just like, I'm practicing my acoustic guitar, you could make more money. Right? Then a rock band that says like, we're going to play this one, and you wait months and months and months, and you practice and practice, and you move and move and move, and you get new strings and new drum skins, and you say like, right, how much time did we spend on this gig, right? Like, put in your hours, lads. I was like, oh, so it was like basically 3 weeks for you, or 3 months for you, 3 months preparation for this fucking gig, right? Okay, so this gig should pay off thousands of dollars.
So you can like break even.
Yeah, in terms of your time, you should be paid thousands of dollars. And then as it is, it's like hundreds, if you're lucky. And then sometimes that's just 100 shared between the band. It's just like, oh, $20 or $25. Of course it's not fucking worth it, considering how much effort. If you just took that whole time and just busked for that entire time, you'd make way more money. So it's completely economically unviable. The only thing that works for bands in terms of make money is selling your music and selling your merch. If you're having a cool t-shirt and cool logo and shit, and you're a cool band, people want to know your logo and stuff, and you're selling your music, like getting onto playlists, being talked about, having wacky videos on shorts and shit on YouTube. That's the world we're in, right? It's like how many shorts you can do and how many fucking TikToks you can do. Like that's that's the new musical landscape.
Only 1 minute, and then next 1 minute, next
Yeah.
band,
Yeah,
next band.
yeah. It's getting shorter, right? Because like people used to go to the opera or whatever for 3 days to see an opera. It's like, you know, like
And now
there
it's
were
like-
some ones that lasted 3 fucking days, and you were expected to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever the fuck it was back in the day to see this opera. Then the 70s, it became about the album. You know, like the real album. They're all connected conceptually. You know, you're supposed to listen to the first side and then flip it and the second side, but we've got 2 of them because it's a double concept album, you know, or whatever. And that was a long time, but not as long as opera. And then in the hits of the 80s and the 90s and onwards, it all became about the song. When hip hop came in, suddenly in electronic music, it's the sample. It's like there's a little segment. So you see it's getting smaller and smaller. And now it's like looking through like TikTok, there can be like seconds where people like go decide whether they want to keep watching it or they want to flick past it. Keep watching it. It's like Tinder. No, hot. Oh, no, hot. You know, like it's the same sort of fucking thing, except with like with your interest, with your
Yeah.
yeah. It's like so these phones are like training us to have like super short attention spans, and we're judged by the first 2 seconds. Within 2 seconds, people know, sometimes less than that, but like within 2 seconds, most people know whether they want to flick through or they're interested in it all. Everything's getting smaller. Everything's getting like smaller attention spans. And the bite of instruments, that's why tone is like sort of like really more important in like mix. It's like your song's got to sound good the whole way through. You got to have like some nice little bits. Because if they took 2 seconds out of your song, which 2 seconds would it be? Would it, when you guys are playing a wrong note? Is it when you guys are like sort of like making some noise?
What effects do you have for the guitar?
Well, I have distortion, a distortion pedal. I have a fuzz that I use sometimes with distortion and not, but it's quite a nice fuzz by itself, which is quite saturated. A phaser, a harmonist, which is cool because I can do Queen things, so harmony. And I think all the rest of my, apart from the phaser, a lot of them are just delay pedals. Right. So I have like 4 delay pedals.
And then you carry them every gig.
Oh yeah. It's the sound of Electric Tapestry having those pedals. Yeah, for sure.
Do you collaborate with some other artists as well? Have you experienced like collaborating with other artists?
Yeah, we did one thing, and we like jammed with a whole lot of Wellington bands. Like we made improvisation, and so like we've all played with other bands just to like experiment and play.
If there are aspiring musicians, let alone the ones who are neurodivergent, what would you tell them?
Practice is more important for people that are neurodivergent. Because it's a very studious and focused sort of activity, like getting better at your scales and knowing your instrument and actually like playing it through. I think that the edge that ADHD musicians have is that they can write loads of songs. They're endlessly inventive. It's like, I got a new song, new melody. It's like, yeah, what happened to that old one? What happened to that one that was classic? Did you write it down? It's like, oh no, I forgot it, and I thought I put it on my phone, but now I've lost my phone. Or, you know what I mean? Like they can, like, do you know what to see what I mean? Like, so for those that are neurodivergent, that are musical, and there's definitely some people that are not neurodivergent, not ADHD, that are wonderful musicians as well. But I've got different advice for them. Those that are neurodivergent who are musicians, you need to concentrate more on refining and practicing songs and performances and your instrument. You need to concentrate more on the practice. And those that aren't, they need to let go of those things and be more inventive with like trying things that are not supposed to work. You might find something that does actually, or it sounds interesting, creates tension, or those people have got to like play against the rules a little bit if they want to be inventive. They've got to like know the rules. Okay, that's great. Now you got to break them. You know what I mean? Now you got to deliberately do something. So, oh, but it shouldn't be a minor chord there. It would actually be a major. It's like, yeah, but it sounds cool when it's not quite right. It's like it sounds more interesting. It sounds more unique. Oh, that means we've got to change key. It's like, well, fucking just do it. Just for that one bar, change your key. Could be weird. Could be cool. Just do it. And I think neurodivergent people, when they're writing music, they're not aware that they're breaking all these rules. It's like speeding up or like changing the key signature. Or it's like, oh, you're doing like 4 bars of 4/4 and then you're doing the 5th bar of 3/4. Did you mean to do that? It's like, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was supposed to be doing that. It's by accident, you know. So that's what ADHD is, or neurodivergent musicians do, is that they just like break the rules unknowingly. And those that aren't need to learn how to break a bit more.
So looking back, what's the biggest game changer for you with learning yourself as a neurodivergent person?
Actually being aware of it, that I would actually like look up videos about it and documentaries about it, shorts about it. And the real game changer was finding out my partner also had ADHD. And so like there's things that we totally respect about one another and the way that we do things with one another, and we understand like where we're coming from, you know, that we're not crazy. So yeah, like that's a real game changer.
What's next for Electric Tapestry, and what's next for Nick?
Well, we're going to play some shows. We're doing a couple of shows outside of Wellington and playing more and releasing new music. Since my accident, I've actually like gotten used to playing a lot of piano parts. And I think what's going to happen with Electric Tapestry after we do these gigs and record that music is there's probably going to be more songs with piano. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of the future. A bit more keys and a bit more maybe laptop and electronic percussion in our songs. Yeah.
Couple more questions. What is being neurodivergent to you, and what is ADHD?
Being neurodivergent is like basically what I think it means is like thinking in the minority of how the majority of people think. Like you're the minority concept of way of thinking. Like that. It means anything not the majority actually, because there's not like neurodivergent people all think the same way. It's more that they don't think the mainstream way, you know? So that's a disadvantage for them because the first realizations they'll come to, or the easiest conclusions they'll come to in way of thinking and working things out, will be a variety of responses, whereas 90% of the population will all answer the same answer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's not cool because then you're coming to different conclusions. Is it interesting? Yes. Does it help you write songs? Probably. Does it make you do different things all the time and become inventors and create a new, better way of doing things? Does it help you hyper-focus on a particular thing? Yes, it does. That's your fucking superpower. But sustained focus, that is not. And remembering facts and details, not. You know, so just being aware of it. Yeah.
What is ADHD?
I think that it's sort of the same way as understanding thinking, but it's like sort of just a time of, and not just time of attention, but also what respects your attention. Because if it's not interesting enough, it's just like, no, I'm not interested. And so you're judging all these things, like that's boring, that's boring, that's boring, that's boring. It's very judgy, you know what I mean? And you're judging things very fast. And so I think it goes back to like how I was thinking in terms of like neurodivergence. Like 90% of the population has this time in this list of things that they will be willing to spend their attention on. 90%. And then neurodivergent is all the other data entries. It might be like, you guys can usually concentrate for 20 minutes on a particular thing, and most of the population can, 90%, big block of 20 minutes. And there's like 10, 9, 8, 7, 2, this guy's only on like a couple of milliseconds. You know what I mean? And so like you're outside of the norm, but you're not all thinking the same way. You don't all have the same lack of attention. It's a spectrum out there. But for the most part, it's not a spectrum. It's like 90% of the population thinks this way, 90% of the population sort of like can concentrate on these things, these keywords, you know, that way of thinking. The rest of the data is very not collated at all. It's just not that.
Right.
It's not that, you know, like it's not that intention, it's not that in terms of conclusive thinking and logical thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And I enjoyed the conversation, by the way, especially with the bands and stuff. I love talking about bands and stuff.
Yeah. So, music's awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you and appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for coming.
Hopefully we can still do it at some point.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Okay.
How do you gotta do Zalpa? There we go. Yeah.
Welcome, Nick. Okay, go.
Yeah, it just feels weird in a room full of instruments not to
Yeah.
But yes, good to.
Welcome, Nick.
What was that? A G sharp or?
Oh, you know, you can hear it.
No. That's a good guess though.
Okay.
I knew it was a sharp for some reason. Cause,
okay.
because it was closer to you because it was all the black keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is a nice one. This is made of wood.
Yeah, that's a xylophone.
Yeah.
Then those ones are glockenspiels.
Oh. Okay.
Or wait, is it the other way around? Maybe that's the glockenspiel and those are the xylophones. I don't know.
Okay. They're instruments.
Yeah.
Again,